Welcome to Lord Johnlander, the Outlander podcast for Lord John fans, where we talk all things Outlander, but especially about Jaime and his Sassenach.
And sometimes we talk about Claire, too.
We can't promise you much, but for the next half hour-ish, we can promise chaos and to make you question whatever life choices led you to listen to us. Before we get into it, this is your one and only warning that show and book spoilers are lurking around every corner.
We're even going to spoil crap that never happened.
Hello, welcome back to Lord Johnlander. We are your hosts. I am Mistress Pandora. You can call me Pans, kind of mouthful. My co-host is here as well.
It's J. Sweet Prey, otherwise known as Beth.
And also Ness, again. Thank you so much, Ness. Geek in the Pink, or Geek in the Fuchsia Hair, if you're a Tumblrite. What's the
Tumblrina, there we go. Hello again.
I think I've seen that movie.
It's late. So we had another one of those fun little situations where Ness crashed and it was fantastic. And we had a wonderful conversation where we criticized absolutely everything about the episode, rightly so.
And the series, really.
The whole fucking series. We really ripped it a new one. Won't be the last time that we do that, I am sure. So we are going to finish up our commentary for episode 109, The Reckoning. And we just got to the part... Hold on, let me pause. Do we need content warnings for the rest of this episode? I think we're okay. I would just
say it just in case. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned this last week as well before we started with this episode, but just quick content warning. We are talking about The Reckoning. So we may, in this episode as well, part 2, we may end up discussing domestic violence at some point, and those discussions may be distressing or triggering to some listeners. We're going to link support resources like we usually do, or, well, this is the first time we've actually done that for the podcast, but
it will not be the last.
It will not be the last, and this is a habit that we're going to begin. So there are support resources available at thehotline.org. That's the National Domestic Violence Hotline. If you're in the US, the phone number for that is 1-800-799-7233. So we are picking up this episode. I don't even know where in the episode it is. Maybe half an hour in. It's not very far.
I don't know. A lot happens in this episode.
We're back to those heavy content.
That again. Like this. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at Wiki, and this was apparently 59 minutes. No, the hell it wasn't. It was a stressful 59 minutes. So we're back at Castle Leoch. That's where we're starting. I'm gonna teleport.
Sometimes I am like amazed at how much the show packs into one episode.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Like I look back and I'm like, holy shit, that was a lot.
I feel like especially in the early seasons, yeah.
Yeah.
And like with especially all the traveling and everything, like it's wild, yeah. Even if you think back that it starts because it came from a cliffhanger too, and like thinking about where it ends, like it's I feel like it spans quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
So we get back to Castle Leoch, and the rent party is, I guess that was the Great Hall. I'm not really sure.
Probably.
With Jaime and Claire shoved to the front like, hey, look what we got.
And some people are happy.
Some people are happy. Letitia is like, hey, we haven't had a wedding in a long time. And Carlum's like, yeah, I know.
The shade from Column is just the motherfucking shade.
The best part is that you think he obviously is all stone-faced, and you're like, oh, he's gonna congratulate them anyway. No, he just congratulates Claire just to really stick it to Jaime. I love it. Pissed. It's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, those Mackenzie brothers, they really know how to deal it out.
Oh my god. So Jaime is on his way. He has been summoned to see himself. That sounds weird. That didn't sound...
I almost wonder. I don't know if I heard this in a podcast episode or it was in one of the ones we recorded, but we said the same thing about himself, and I'm like, I hope everybody knows who we're talking about. When we're talking about himself. We're not like talking about their dicks or anything, like, even though that would be very like us. But
I mean, in that moment, we weren't. We can get there.
Well, yeah,
I don't think we want to get there with Colum. I mean, I've done worse.
Let's not do that.
I don't know if Colin can get there, so
there's proof.
Well, that does come up.
It does.
That does come up. So Jamie bumps into Lyra on his way to visit Mackenzie.
And she is so sad.
She's like, she's betrayed. Like, how could you do this to me? That look that he gives her. Oh my God.
I know. Okay. I did not notice this until I saw someone else notice this. But like, can he stop? Like,
yes!
Like, he's a married man. Is he aware? Like, I know his wife is mad at him, but like, literally, how many days have you gone without sex? Like, it can't be that many.
I think he actually just feels like, I think he feels bad for it. Like, it looked like pity to me in a way. Maybe not pity, because I think he's kinder than that. But like,
I think he's really
like,
I think he's like, wow, I kissed this girl. I owe her.
But this is the shit, and this is going to be a more fun rant, I think, than some of my
last one
episode. But this is the shit that drives women insane. Men,
yeah.
Oh boy,
they have such a hard time. They don't want to hurt the feelings, right? So instead of just being direct and clear, he's like, she's like, well, how could you do it? And he's like, oh, well, like Dougal made me, and
doesn't even take responsibility.
Blah, blah, blah. And just say, I'm married now. Even if you're not ready to tell Leary that you love your wife, like, just be clear. Say something that makes it clear, because what he's doing is he's leaving the window open.
Mm-hmm.
He's just leaving it open a crack. Like, and I don't even think he's doing it to, like, so that she can climb right in, but so he doesn't, like, hurt her feelings. But this is the stuff that men do this, and then women think, oh, well, he's married, but like, he's not married happily. He was forced into this marriage. So now I'm going to meet him by the river with my titties out. And, and like, and then when women do stuff like that, well, minus the titties, men are like, oh, she's crazy. She's crazy. She's a psycho. You are the one that made her that way, because you weren't clear with her, because you left the window open.
It's so true.
I'm still laughing at the phrase minus the titties.
Wow.
There was just too many titties in this episode.
There was.
I do not say that lightly. I do not say that lightly.
Okay. I'm so glad I'm not the one to say it, because I am obsessed with Leary's titties in this episode. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, they really are.
They're so good, okay? They're memorable. As a straight person, I'm saying that. So, and it's fun, because I feel like I couldn't enjoy the Claire titties from the beginning of the episode. It was not cool. So I'm glad that there's some positive titties. But then I get into a whole other issue about that, but we'll talk about that when the titties show up. So, but I just cannot get over that one of the first things he says to her is, oh, Dougal made me. Like, you're telling, not that it's a lie. He's not telling a lie. He's telling a convenient truth, because, like, he wasn't pining after this woman for episodes and episodes, and that he had no intention of marrying Leary. Or maybe not no intention, but very little intention of letting this crush turn into anything more intense, and not seeing her, seeing her as anything other than a little girl, and then kind of in a weird kind of way, and from different ways that he's treated her. And yeah, he just drags her along in like this insane. Yeah, and the way he looks at her boobs, number one. I checked. And he gives her like these weird bedroom eyes, and it was it's just strange. It's just a strange moment.
Oh. But it's really so you look at that, and then I'm not even to the river yet, but you just in the corridor. It's really no wonder that he ends up marrying her later.
Even though it seems insane when you find out, but this makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, like, because it's, especially after, like, if you read the books, like, you get more of a sense of what was going through his head in the books. Like, he didn't marry Lyra for Lyra, he married her for the girls. But, like, you can kind of see there's, like, again, it's not necessarily pity, it's just he feels protective of her, I guess. And I think in this moment that's kind of extending to her feelings, and he's trying to let her down gently. But he pulls a freaking Shaggy and says, "It wasn't me." Like,
Yeah,
Oh
essentially.
my God.
I don't think I noticed it the first time I watched it. This is only the second time I have watched this episode. And I don't think I noticed it the first time, but watching it this time, I'm like, holy shit, man! Like, stuff's falling. It's falling in place, falling into place in a terrible way. Yeah, chicken. This argument between Colum and Dougal right in front of Ned and Jamie.
Intense.
I mean, can we talk about how intense that was? That was just really, like, deliciously uncomfortable. Like, this is a good kind of uncomfortable.
This is like, this can almost feel like it can tell you, maybe not everything, but so many things about Dougal and Colum's relationship.
Oh, yeah.
And how I think how they're very kind of fiercely bonded. I think there's something about that like they're two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
There's that kind of essence to them, but then it's like, but the other one is a constant threat in the opposing one's life, kind of thing.
Yes.
Because of how they're so diametrically opposed. Yeah.
And this just occurred to me, literally just in this second. So much of what Dougal says to Colum is Dougal's, like, venting about the responsibility he carries because of Colum's disability. Like, he goes out and he collects Colum's rents, and he assured his bloodline, and all of this stuff. And it's like it just, like, really occurred to me the weight of the responsibility on Dougal, because Colum just really cannot perform all the duties of being the laird. And in that perspective, I really can see why Dougal is so resentful that Colum gets the title of laird, and Dougal's like, and I'm over here doing half the freaking work.
Oh, absolutely. That aspect I think is so important to, well, especially to Dougal as a person, like why he acts the way he does, and why his just like, because so much of him is built on resentment. So I think it's like why he lashes out, why he has like power struggles, why when he has power he wields in a way that's can be disgusting and violent and all kinds of different things. And I think it's interesting, based on our conversation in Rent, that he lists the things to Colum in this moment. Because I always wonder, like, is it something that is he just a little bitch and he does it all the time, or did he save it up for like these really intense, for the things that it's kind of like for the things that he really wants, where he's like, yeah, it's kind of like he flips it back on him, like, this is what I've done for you and now you owe me this. I'm asking for this one little thing and I've given up most of my life to you. I remember going through that scene and just thinking, like, and remembering how it was resolved later on in the episode, and going, he's not wrong in that moment. Like, why, other than the possible decision that Colum is making for a larger purpose, he's not kind of like wrong in that moment. Like, you should, with the context of everything and the way that he did raise it, I guess you could say, in a way that was where everybody knew what they were doing. Yeah, he's not. It seems like a petty kind of power grab for Colum to be like, oh, this isn't yours.
Well, I think Dougal sees Colum. So the crux of the argument isn't like the gold, or I mean, Colum does kind of sort of accuse Dougal of stealing, but I think Dougal is seeing Colum's unwillingness to support the Jacobite cause as treason.
Yes, yeah.
And Colum, though, so we've kind of mentioned this before, like kind of the difference between Colum and Dougal. It's not necessarily brains and brawn, it's different kind of brains. Colum is 3-4 steps ahead of Dougal. Dougal is in the not incorrect, just different mindset of, this is what I believe is right. This is what I believe means to be a patriot and a Scot. And it doesn't matter how hopeless it may be. Sometimes the rebellion is just about the rebellion. Colum is thinking, it is absolutely 100% my responsibility to keep my clan alive and safe.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, he's thinking strategically, like, okay, yeah, Dougal may be right, and I may agree with him, but what if it goes wrong? So there's a lot of, he kind of has to play both sides of the game until he sees which way to go.
Yeah, and it actually makes total sense, because here is Dougal, kind of like knowing that he has, what's the word? I'm losing the word for it, but that there is justification in what he's saying and what he wants and all that. And he probably thinks that, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, my brother should understand this. We have a similar, we understand some of the, we're both, maybe he expects Colum to support the Jacobite cause. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think that's too far from what could be true in some version of this. But it's almost like a perfect example of why Dougal cannot and should not be layered, because he's not thinking about the consequences for the clan. He even goes as far to say, it's not about the clan, and the clan isn't important, it's about Scotland. And it sounds, it's like that thing that I want to say, like, that's stupid people say when they don't get it. And it's like, well, you're not, you say that, it's very easy for you to say that because you don't have a responsibility.
He's an idealist. Dougal, in this case, is the idealist.
And he has the room to be an idealist because he's not responsible. And he is responsible for people in a different way, but Colum is responsible for the decisions and the consequences of the decisions. And all of that falls on him. And he uses Dougal to help enact those decisions. And that's the difference between them. And it's the reason, it's kind of enacts and like shows the audience the reason why he wants someone like Jaime to be his successor and not Dougal, because here's Jaime in the background seeing this fight between brothers, and he's kind of, well, he'll figure it out later, but he's already kind of dissecting the problems, the issues with it, the problems with it, where they're each coming from, and he's the one who comes up with the solution.
Yeah.
So it's like, as much as Dougal does and as much as he wants it, it's like it makes sense as to why he's not the right choice for it.
It strikes me that this is such a conflict between ways of life, right? And like, and I don't know a ton about Scottish clan history, but like from what I do understand, yes, Scotland has traditionally had a king, but the clans really were kind of more important than the king. Like, the clans were not united, and it really was for a long time in history all about the clan. So you have Colum kind of in that mindset, trying to protect the clan and protect that way of life, because as he sees it, the clan is the only way to survive, right? And then you have Dougal, who, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because he's saying, I don't care about the clan. Not that he doesn't care about the clan, but like, this is about Scotland, which is bigger than the clan. And in a way, in making it about Scotland versus the clans, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy that the rebellion fails, and Scotland as a whole, or at least the Highlands, become even more subject to tyrannical, overarching rule by the king. And then you have Jaime, who is just completely modern in his way of thinking compared to them,
Mm-hmm.
and is trying to just come up with something that will be to the benefit of everybody in some way, shape, or form. But it's really like a values conflict right there when you think of it in the context of the history of Scotland, because it really was, you know, clan was everything, and Dougal's kind of in a different direction, thinking about Scotland as a whole. He was actually a little bit ahead of where, you know, a lot of the other clans were, because one of the reasons I think that the Jacobite rebellion failed is that the clans did not unite like they expected them to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and they're on the same side. There was something you said, I don't remember exactly what it was you said that made me think of this, but Dougal saying it's about Scotland, Colum saying it's about the clan. For Colum, the clan is Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
For him, it's he can't control the other clans. He can't influence the other clans, but he can take care of his clan.
And he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Because that is the thing that suffers when the rebellion, or like when, I guess after the rebellion fails, is that the clans are the ones that suffer from it. Yeah,
and in trying to be united, it kind of, like I said, it's kind of like the clans all the clans suffered because none of them could really protect themselves once the rebellion had happened.
Mm-hmm. I wonder too if it's just kind of like a little foreshadowing to a lot of what will be in season 2, and kind of the first little discussion between like a Jacobite and then someone who doesn't want to be, another Scot who doesn't want to be considered a Jacobite.
Yeah. But I mean, in the end, I mean, Colum could see what was coming. So, but then you can also say conversely, well, if all the clan leaders were thinking like this, if they had thought a little more united, then maybe they would have won, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course,
mm-hmm.
Can't ever tell. But
I think I think maybe the point is that the perspectives are kind of valid for different reasons.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's something, there were a couple of things in this particular scene that really struck me. One was Dougal yelling at Colum, "I even assured your bloodline," and Jamie looking like someone just slapped him directly in the face. Like, you almost think he did, like he didn't know. He knew, like, it's the thing, everyone knew, but no one fucking says it. And so he's like, oh, it's the shots fired look. Like, oh, shots fired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was one. The other thing that I almost, because I'm getting on my, I hate Dougal soapbox. Hang on to it, Ness. But no, it's
all good.
When he says we raise that money honorably, I'm like, oh yeah, by traumatizing your nephew fucking nightly. Sure, that was honorable as shit. Okay, dude. Yeah, you have no idea what that word means. I don't think it means what you think it means. Yeah, so like that, ooh, I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally fine. You're absolutely owed free use of Jamie's body and taking his autonomy and stuff. And I also wonder, because it's at the end of this scene that Colum asks for a letter to be sent to the Duke of Sandringham. Do you think that was to punish Jamie?
That's a very interesting thought.
It does seem kind of like a non sequitur, right? Like, why are we suddenly inviting this guy?
And there's no explanation. And I was like waiting for it. Like something. Except for that Ned says, "Oh, smart." And it's not, well, and technically it's not after this conversation. It's after the result, after the resolution.
Oh, yeah.
But Ned says, "Oh, smart," because he's afraid.
He's just being a kiss ass.
Yeah, just a little bit. And he's like, "Oh, I have a very smart laird. It'd be good to get an Englishman's perspective on what's happening with the Jacobite army or the Jacobite rising or all of that." But Colin doesn't say that. He just says Sandringham. So it's like, so it's suspicious. Yeah. It's absolutely suspicious.
I think part of the reason that Colum Summit is inviting Sandringham is to punish Jamie, because it's not a secret that Sandringham is a predator. They joke about it.
It's the first thing that he says, that Dougal says. It's the first thing that is said after Colm says, send a letter to Sandringham inviting him for a feast or something to that effect. It's the first thing.
Yeah.
It's very, I never thought of it. So it'd be interesting to see, watching next episode, if there's any more clues as to why he did that.
Oh, yeah, that's the next episode.
It is the next.
Is it explained in the book why he's there? I can't.
Yeah, not to my, not that I
don't
remember.
I'll have to look that up.
I don't remember.
That'd be interesting for episode 10.
For corrections and clarifications next time.
That involves substantial reading. Shit. That's homework.
I'm just gonna word search in the ebook, so it's all good.
I will let you do the homework then, Beth. Because I don't have the ebook. I have the audiobook, which is worse. Yeah, I don't know if they ever explain it. They sure do explain why he's so terrible.
Save it. Gotta save it.
Gotta save it. Colm and Dougal groom their nephew.
And then, and I think what's kind of fun after this discussion, too, when Colm is so pissed, and obviously Dougal is so pissed, because Colm has now taken the Jacobite money, and he's kind of an extra dick about it. He, like, kind of takes it and, like, doesn't tell anybody who told him, and kind of waves in his face, going on and on and on, which is kind of unnecessary. But still slowly as time is going, we will discover that's just kind of how he does things. And then I thought this is just kind of fun. So the next scene is Jamie and Myrta discussing the chaos that has now fallen over the castle. And kind of Myrta's like, okay, we're enough of this. We got to split. It's actually their discussion that kind of gives Jamie ideas as to how to make it all work, and how to, because of course it seems to happen since we've kind of came to Castle Leoch, is if Colm and Dougal are having an issue, Jamie somehow it's affecting Jamie in some negative way. Like, so he better fix it for his own damn self-interest. Like, it's like that's a fun thing that seems to happen over and over.
I just love how Myrta's like, yeah, let's just go, and Jamie's like, I'm married now, like I can't just, and then
like she's not gonna just go. Like
yeah. And Myrta's like, do we care, basically?
Well, and Jamie doesn't really know at this point though that Claire is like always down for some camping, so like
True.
So he's probably thinking like, and again, here he is trying to understand what it means to be a husband, what it means to be a man, and thinking to himself like, I can't just be on the road anymore. I can't live rough. Like, I have a wife now. I have to, and he's got this expectation too of what he should be doing for her in terms of, he's got to have a home, and which he's correct.
Well, yes.
But at the same time, he's kind of thinking very like one track about it,
But he's not wrong though, because when they leave Castle Leoch, the havoc will be intense.
Oh God, yeah.
Because I was thinking about it, I'm like, so what if they did leave in this episode? I'm like, I think things would have just been sped up. Like, I think we just would have had, because once they don't have the protection of Castle Leoch, I realized like, oh yeah, like it really starts once they don't have that protection anymore.
But of course, later though, Castle Leoch becomes a dangerous place for Claire. So it, there really is no safe place for them, because either way the chaos will find them. They're just the chaos couple.
That's the real truth right there.
Shenanigans magnet. Like, Claire really was. She was I think we said this on the wedding episode, but she was completely out of the frying pan and directly into the fire, marrying Jamie. That just was not. It worked out, but logistically, this was not a good trade.
No.
Valid.
At least if she'd married Dougal, she would just have been left in like a house or something, never seeing her husband.
She'd just be bored.
Except for those periods of intense terror when she
wasn't. God. Though we do get, and then kind of to further this Colm and Dougal thing, where we kind of see their personalities and the differences and kind of the two different Scottish positions on the rebellion and all that. And then we go to, and we know this already, but it's like, I think the most explicit probably here. In the scene where you find out that young Willie is the one that told Colum about the money, and Angus and Rupert are not happy about it. And so they're giving him endless shit, and they're kind of roughing him up a little bit about it. And Jamie and Myrta come upon them and are kind of questioning them about it, and think it's of their opinion that they think it's a little harsh, that they think it's a little unfair. And so immediately, and weirdly enough, not Myrta's loyalty. Myrta's loyalty is not questioned by Rupert or Angus, but Jamie's obviously is.
Oh, Myrta's loyalty is clearly to Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it should be
that's
obvious.
not a secret.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and Myrta isn't related to the Mackenzies.
True.
So he's not stuck in the middle of this constant push and pull because he's a Fraser, and he's just along for the ride because of Jamie.
Well, it is true, and he can do as he pleases, right? It's like he can live where he wants. Because he's not a fugitive or any of that, so it is different.
And who's gonna fucking tell Myrta not to do that?
Well, that would be a dumb person, yeah.
Who's gonna tell Myrta no? Like, that's just asking for trouble. So like Colum and Dougal, like you can kind of see it through this issue between Willie and the rest of the men. But Colum and Dougal honestly are kind of like two children with a teddy bear, and poor Jamie is the teddy bear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're fighting over it, right? Like he's just gonna rip in half. That's a really wild mental image that I just had.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't follow me to sleep.
Oh.
But it's true. And then they're like, well, who are you loyal to? Is it Colum or Dougal? And then 2 seconds later, Rupert's like, this is Mackenzie business. Like,
yeah,
look, you can't pick one. Like,
yeah, because they automatically, and I think maybe it's because Jamie like kind of just dodges the question.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, oh, well then you're obviously a Fraser, you're not a Mackenzie if you can't. And they obviously want him to pledge loyalty to Dougal because that's where their loyalties lie. But then the closest thing Jamie says, I think when he's badgered a second time, is that there is only one Laird. And I think it's interesting because I think he has an emotional connection and an emotional loyalty to Dougal, but I think he knows the smarter choice is to, when the stakes are the highest, he's going to pledge his loyalty to Colum.
But I mean, he never does pledge his loyalty to Colum, though.
No, only as far as he has to.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yes, yeah. Just in that sense, not in the most intense way.
Just enough to not get murdered in his sleep.
Yeah.
And to have a place to sleep that's not where he's yes, exactly.
But I mean, it's also like, here he is in this fight, being the teddy bear that's going to get torn apart between these two grown men. And he's like, I don't even want anything to do with this. I just want to go home to Lollipop. Like, God.
Hey, you know who else right now is thinking I just want to go home? John, stuck in Aberdeen.
Oh, God, the poor kid.
Was that artless?
No, it was good.
Okay, but I'm sure that, he's got Liam now. So
yes,
I think he's probably faring a lot better than he was, earlier on.
He's got someone to keep him company. Did the books ever really talk about how he knows Hector? Like, how did he meet Hector?
I don't think so. There's so
precious little. He's like,
I know.
he lives. Hector Hector lives on this pedestal in John's mind, but also like definitely behind glass. He's super protective of his memories and his interpretation of how the relationship was. And yeah, I don't know. You don't really dig into it much.
I always just kind of assumed they would have met during some sort of soldier times, just because they were both there. But who knows, really, though.
So later we find out. So is it in Voyager or just the show? Anyway, John says that Hector is the person who inspired him to join the army.
Oh, that's right, he does. Yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe they met in London or whatever, like when
Probably.
Hal was like readying the regiment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
maybe I met him through Hal. Hal would love that.
Hal is always sponsoring John's trips with his men. right? Like he whisked John and Hector away on a trip to the Highlands,
Mm-hmm.
and then he sends
Oh, that ended
Jamie
really
and
well.
John.
You were not okay.
Well, you know.
I refuse to accept Hal as an ally. I fucking refuse. I can't get that far.
He's a secret pimp. You have to deal with it.
I can't.
He
Okay,
knows.
Don't.
I think that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm out. Did you say secret pimp?
Yes.
Okay. I'm probably the wrong person to say that to, because you know I'll write that shit.
Well, I'm just saying, there's like so many plot buddies happening that I have to whisk away. Whisk away.
Put the bunny back in the box.
So much.
I think that Hal is as much of an ally as he feels he can be for the time and his position and all of that. Like, he obviously knows.
He's got to know. How does he? He's got to know. Because Minnie definitely knows, and she's not going to tell him? Like, come on.
Well, and Hal is the leader of that regiment.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that goes on that he doesn't know about.
No, he's too good at this job.
He definitely knows. And I think he does the best as he can given the time and his position and all of that.
He just resents how much it stresses him out.
Yeah.
And then bad shit happens around that. I love this defense of Hal, Beth. It's great. It's so fun.
One day we're just gonna have to let me unpack it, because it's always it's a powder keg. It's always threatening to just explode out of me like an alien in my chest or something. And
I can take it.
It's so complicated. It's so complicated.
It is. Yeah.
It is. I agree. It's not, there's nothing simple about it.
There is, however, I'm just gonna keep making these wild connections. It is, however, quite simple, Jamie, to tell the chick who's obviously still crushing on you and is showing up in the 18th century equivalent. Hold on, let me say that again. Showing up in the 18th century equivalent of answering the door wearing nothing but saran wrap.
There we go.
My brain is melting.
Did not expect you to say saran wrap, but I mean,
I almost put it in the notes, and I'm like, no, I'm going to spring this on him.
Oh, God.
Her stays are touching her skin, which just was not a thing. So yeah, it's.
Oh, so you have costume issues as well? Is that what I hear?
I have subscriptions, not issues.
Oh, God.
Whole journals. So that's it just seems to me like the 18th century equivalent of answering the door wearing nothing but saran wrap.
Well, and again, just freaking tell her. Like, she's like, oh, you're stuck with this cold English wife. And it's like,
you were so good. You were so good to marry her. Like, really buttering him up.
It's like, Jamie, fucking stop.
He doesn't, and I'm sorry, for a second, he doesn't want to. He just doesn't want to.
Oh, no.
For too long, really, but.
There's a brief moment in his brain where he is just like, this is easier. This is easier.
For sure.
I wonder if there was a moment in his brain. There probably was. There probably was. I told you, my brain is melting. I wonder if there was a moment in that conversation where he actually considered setting the record straight about how not cold she is.
Ooh.
That would have been so ungentlemanly.
I mean, I would have loved it. That's what I want him to do. But
I think that would have been like an interesting, probably inappropriate, but
super inappropriate, very fun.
I just love it. He's just checking her out so hard, as he should.
Yeah.
The audience everyone should. Let me just make it very clear. Everyone should be checking her out in this moment. It's a very fun time. I don't care if there's costume issues. I don't care if it's unrealistic. Tits look so good. Full stop. Best of the series.
So, okay. It's not costume issues because it was intentionally. It was intentionally like that.
Oh yeah. Well, yes, exactly. Yeah.
That was intentional.
Okay. But I'm just like, isn't she supposed to be like 14?
No. Well, she's definitely supposed to be underage, but she's like 16 or 17.
Okay. Well, because she says you came when I was 7. I tried to do the math, but I don't know. But I'm like basing it off of wonky stuff.
Don't do math in Outlander.
Exactly. Well, also that. Because she says, you came to Castle when I was 7, and Jamie was 16 when he went to Castle. I see, and then this is like, just because I knew 16 was brought up before, so I don't know if this is the time she mentions, but if he was 16 on the time that she's talking about, then she should be 14, which is like a little, obviously the actress isn't 14, we don't have to worry about that, but I'm just like, this episode, man, is keep hitting us with some weird shit, but yeah, but of course it's like a weird moment since she is supposed to be underage and stuff like that, beyond hoping that he is going to cheat on his wife with her.
Which, point of clarification, underage by our standards, at the time that wasn't really a thing. Childhood as we know it was not a thing, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have a special request from Ness that we take a pause here and have a special additional Jamie Fraser erection scale moment specifically for Lyra's great rack.
Mm-hmm. True. This is all facts.
So, shall we take a moment?
Let's take a moment. Is this gonna work with your spreadsheet? I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can make anything work in a spreadsheet.
Do you have any feelings about this, Beth? Anything?
No, I'm good. So I think he is definitely tempted in the moment. He's only been married for like a week also, so he's still got like the booby eyes.
Booby eyes.
He's he's definitely not turned on. So I'm gonna go with a 3.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, so my thing is, he's trying to fight it so hard. So I'm like, how successful could he be at fighting it in this moment? Based on past experience, based on his sexual frustration, and the fact that his wife is kicking him out of bed, and things like that. And then, but there's also lots of chaos going on around him. He has to fix some huge issues regarding the place that he's sleeping and all that. But because I think he's used to having all kinds of crazy sex on his honeymoon, basically, and Claire has now ripped that away from him, I think it might be tipping the scales and a little hornier, basically a little hornier than he wants to be. So I'm gonna go 3.5.
So rounding to the nearest half penis as always. I rate this one it's just a great visual.
I'll always giggle at that.
Like lengthwise, horizontally, vertically. I love it.
Don't think too hard about it.
No, let's not chop the sausage. That's a different story. Why, Pan? Why did you say that? I need a second. Okay, so I rated this one low. So I've got my 5 my 5 categories. I rated this one low on timing, stamina, and comedic value because it's just not all that funny. It's fairly hot because it's the 18th century equivalent of answering the door in saran wrap. I give him a little bit for that, and it's appropriate to have a boner while you're looking at boobs, but maybe not hers. So yeah. 1.5. I was not impressed. I'm impressed with I'm impressed with the boobs, not the boner. There's a difference.
Interesting.
See?
Interesting.
See, what's funny is that, like, I think so when I'm rating the boner, I'm rating not like my impression of the boner, but like just like almost from Jamie's perspective, like how big is the boner?
Yeah, same. Is that not what everybody's doing?
How good is like
this
like
is
how
good.
Our audience is like they really should have just gone to bed after.
I guess for full transparency's sake, after our last episode, we just took a quick break and then continued to record. So it is now the 4th of July. We started yesterday and it's now after midnight. And we're really trying hard. It's not going well.
So instead of rant point 4, it'll just be get the giggles part 1, I swear.
Yes.
What the fuck was this? Part 2. Where in the shit are we? Okay, so he lets her down way too gently again.
Back up. Were we misinterpreting? Were we interpreting the penis, the boners differently?
So in episode 2, when we start with it, hang on. Blah, blah, blah. When we got to the boner scale in episode 2, we did a timeout and I said I need clarification because I have to have rules, and you're just like, I'm just going to go with my gut. And so I thought, I still don't know what the shit we're doing. I honestly have no fucking clue.
She just made a spreadsheet and it works.
I think it's fine. It's really kind of our brand. So
I should show you at some point. At some point, we should probably post a screenshot of the bar graph. So I have a bar graph.
Yeah, of course you do.
Oh my god, are you tracking analytics on the bonus scale?
I am tracking boner analytics.
Oh my god! At the end of the season, you can like break it down.
It's almost like a weird like penis measuring contest.
That's
Because
awesome.
Beth's bar is bigger than my bar. I'm a
I've always had that BDE.
Anyone else wondering what they're doing with their life?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, as usual, Beth rates Jamie's boners less negatively than I do. I don't know what. Nope. I'm not pulling that thread. I'm not going to unpack it. Or it's just going to be what it is.
Well, and I will say mine was heavily influenced by the fact that I think he should have got a decent boner from that, just from my own personal perspective, which I think counts.
Yeah.
So, Ness, have you been rating like the actual state of the penis or like the situation? Because I guess I've been rating the situation.
No, I think it's yeah, it's like how intense could the boner be? I think that's how I kind of interpreted it. Like, how intense is the boner?
The kilt disruption.
Yes.
The kilt disruption factor.
There we go.
Yes.
Full chub, half chub, you know. I guess we could say it in different ways.
We should measure it by like tent poles. Like how many tent poles.
You gotta figure out like really freaking uncomfortable, gross, like adjectives and descriptions for it. It'd be so fun.
I mean, I'm sure we can.
Just like throbbing, dripping, you know.
Especially recording after midnight. All right, hey,
exactly.
Let's finish this one, man. Come on, we can push through.
Okay, so he's like, I am not getting the good boobs. I gotta go back and fix it with my wife.
The boobs he has access to.
The boobs he has access to.
Well,
he's like, I gotta get back to those.
Love the boobs you're with, you know.
It's so good.
Home is where the boobs are.
Oh my god. And what I liked, or what I thought was kind of funny, because he has the speech that we've mentioned a few times, the voiceover at the beginning where he talks about, oh, this is the time when I find out what it was, that I have to make a decision, and then I find out what it is to be a man, or something. He said something like that. And you kind of discover when he goes into their bedroom to confront Claire about their fight, that this is actually the moment that he's talking about, despite all the other crazy things that have happened during this episode. Yeah. It's actually this moment that he means. He decides he's going to try to come at this the same way that he did, or that he's now seen the example of Colum putting aside his pride to make amends and to compromise on something that he's kind of unsure about, and that's something that could make him look like he's losing power because it's for the greater good, and it does benefit him in the end. So Jamie kind of learns a lesson from that and decides that he will pledge an oath to Claire, saying that he will, that the way that their marriage can be doesn't have to be the way his parents' marriage was and his grandparents' marriage was, and so on and so forth, the marriages that he's known in his life. So he pledges the same oath that the other Highlanders pledged to Colum. He does the same pledge to Claire.
You know, this is a place where it would have been really helpful to have like some conversation between them before he came to this conclusion, right? Like, because all we see is the scene where he hits her, and then they have like a tiny little conversation mostly about Dougal and Colin before Claire just like says, you know, you're not getting in bed with me, basically. And then somehow completely on his own, Jamie comes to the understanding that he shouldn't have done that and that he should pledge to never do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a really far leap from where he was earlier in the episode to where he ends up without once having a conversation with anybody about it, including Claire.
That's true.
Just pointing that out.
It's weird too, because it's like she's barely, I bet she's probably got, like, let's minus the last scene, like the middle of the episode, or like there's a huge chunk of this episode that she's barely in, which is like so wild, because it's the first time that really happens.
Yeah, well, it's still Jamie's perspective. We're following him.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like he's there every second, and then suddenly we get this huge chunk that she's not in, except for she's the conflict, and then you get to see the resolution, which is a bit, it's a bit like, and you think too, I think it would have been more satisfying if there'd be for him to hear her out about it, because it obviously is such a serious issue. But of course, it's kind of resolved with this very romantic, or they kind of make it very romantic, pledge, and then she holds back a little bit to like, so you kind of see her kind of holding out for the best of him, I guess you could say, before they kind of dissolve into like sexual comfort, I guess was the way that I would put it. It's kind of an interesting, I guess, another kind of interesting message to send about the whole entire thing.
They're fucking it out.
Yeah, fucking it out.
You know,
it's not exactly emotional support orgasms.
Close. Something akin.
But I think too that it, like, right, wrong, or indifferent, she missed him and he missed her, even though it hasn't even really been that long. And it's kind of like a rejoining.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very intense, because I think that Claire is kind of realizing the depth of her feelings towards Jamie, and, he's realizing how much he could have lost. It is very, it's very kind of beautiful in that sense.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's like the next step, I feel like, for them. It's kind of like they chose to be together. They went through the experience of kind of getting to know each other during the wedding and stuff, and now it's like some sort of reaffirmation or something.
So they start to have sex, and Claire is like, not going to let this die without getting the last word in, right? So
of course.
So unlike her.
Smart girl in this case especially. So she takes Jamie's dirk, and she's got him at her mercy, and she holds that to his throat and says, if you ever do that, lay a hand on me again, I'll cut your heart out and eat it for breakfast. It's a highly sexually charged moment.
She is continuing to ride him as she says it.
And so This is where I want to do the Jamie Boner scale, because because we've talked before about Jamie loving the scary sweary ladies and having a little bit of a step on me mommy kink.
I love it.
So at the moment that dirk is to his throat, where are we at on the boner scale?
Let's be real. It's a 5. I'm not even going to get into it. It's a 5.
I'm going to say it's off the charts. 8 out of 5.
There we go.
At least. It's just too much to even compute.
So
Dan's going to be like, I'm going to give it a -3.
Okay. So I am
remember, you're the champion of Jamie Fraser violence and sex. You got to remember.
I know, but here's the thing. Okay, I'm so on the one hand, 12, but on the other, he didn't consent to knife play, so that kind of takes.
There we go.
So that's true.
But in like, once again, he doesn't see this as being problematic.
No, never.
No.
I mean, he would if it starts to hurt more, but in the that's my jugular kind of way.
Yeah, if blood play gets into it,
like there is a moment of real fear, and then he is so into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a 5.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Glad we got through it quickly, at least.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
I'm not cool with it. I just want to say, even though I'm saying all this, I'm also not cool with it. At the same time,
I'm not like it's
in the context of this episode, especially.
Yeah,
yes,
I agree.
Because
I agree.
It's like we're saying it's okay for wives to do violence against their husbands and not the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now I'm back to 1.
But he doesn't know. You have to rate him. He doesn't know.
I mean, he definitely whatever. Go ahead.
In the book, this doesn't happen during the sex. This happens.
Oh yeah.
After their conversation, she threatens him with the sword or the dirk or something, but they're not, the two are not conflated together in the book.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I do find that kind of interesting. I mean, I'm sure that part of it is, obviously trying to squish a lot into this episode, but it's also what we've been talking about, where they keep putting sex into everything where maybe it should not be.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So, boner scale aside, I agree that it's really not, it could have been more appropriate if it was done a little differently, but there's nothing appropriate about that scene. So
yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, I thought of something. Frank parallel.
Oh.
So in the first episode, in the voiceover, Claire says that sex was their way back to each other.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Here we are. I'm thinking this is a her thing.
It is.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
It definitely is. And Jamie even says, like, you think with your body. And
yeah, that's mentioned, more than once.
Freaking hell, that's how she and John bond, too. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, I mean, he knew he loved her when he held her in his arms. And I don't think there's any real point that Claire says that is when she knew she loved him. But I think for her, sex is an even bigger part of how she connects with a partner. And I don't think she can, I think it's difficult for her to feel that connection without that physicality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's like a part of, and it's maybe because of it's her 20th century thing, but yeah, it's an interesting choice to be a part of her character.
Even 20th century though, like thinking about the time period and
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Because
while it seems modern, it wouldn't have been like it wouldn't have been a traditional, or wouldn't have been something traditionally accepted around then either.
Yeah.
So afterwards, Jamie asks for clarification on some words that Claire used in his vicinity, fucking and sadist, and I gotta call bullshit on one of those words. Would you guys like an etymology lesson at 12:26 a.m.? Okay.
It's the only time for it, don't you know?
So he doesn't know what the word fucking means. Damn liar. Yes, he does. I think he's trying to see if she knows what it means. Yes, I did research this. This is not the first time I've researched this because, damn it, sometimes I like to cuss in my fan fiction, and I will completely ignore canon, but I will not ignore etymology. So, fuck was used as a verb. Fuck was used as a verb meaning to copulate as early as the 14th century, and it was a noun in 1680. I will even link the source. Although, like, I can admit that fucking as kind of a vulgar, intensive, like, adjective, like she sort of used it, wasn't really used until 1893. Although, point of fact, Merriam-Webster says that means damn, not to copulate, because it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make any freaking sense.
Right, yeah.
But he speaks, 7 languages, including Latin and Greek, and fluently, and he can't conjugate the verb fuck.
Well,
Right,
and
yeah.
I also, to your point, I think why does she say it like that? Like, oh, it's what we just did. That's not how you meant it. Like,
Right,
She
yeah.
meant it.
that's just confusing.
And he goes along with it like, oh, it's so funny, I learned a new word. No, that's not what happened. So yeah, it's not an anachronism for characters from the 18th century to be using this word. Like, John uses it, other characters use it. I feel like Harry Corey probably uses it a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've definitely read it somewhere.
It's definitely used quite a bit. Yeah.
In the same meeting. The other word that he didn't know was sadist. Now that one he probably did not know because it really didn't come out. It really didn't start being used until 1892, meaning from sadism, meaning love of cruelty. And I'm not going to pronounce the French origin because I don't speak a lick of French. But the word sadism comes from a count who wrote a bunch of dark erotica that emphasized violence and suffering and crime and blasphemy. Fun fact, he would have been a toddler in Paris at the time that Jamie and Claire are having their rage shag. So he wrote so many dead doves, his name became synonymous with it.
Crazy.
We should all aspire to such greatness.
He's like the father of like fic, really.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. The father of dark fic.
Yes.
So there we go. Yeah, he probably knew fucking. He didn't know sadist. Ta-da!
Yeah, it's interesting. So, like, maybe he just asked her about the context, and then she gave him a context that didn't make sense. Love it.
Well, they were both in a sex haze, so
yeah.
We'll have to forgive them a little bit.
I get that's true. And actually, the other thing I thought too was because they say rutting. I feel like maybe it's even like Rent or something when all the guys are talking, they kind of use it in like a derogatory way. So I wonder if he was just like, oh yeah, it's like if you're saying rutting or something and you're describing somebody who can't control themselves or something like that.
Yeah, true. So the episode ends with Claire finding the ill wish. And I'm having a little trouble with the timing of this because when did she put the ill wish? And it's Leary. So when did she put the ill wish under the bed? Did she put it under the bed before she even showed up on the beach with Saran wrap? Or because it seems like Jamie went straight from that to back to Claire to make his oath to her. And if she was going to go meet him by the river, why the ill wish? Because she obviously thought that she was going to be able to seduce him. And I know it's Outlander and they do not care about some of this weird timing stuff, but it bothers me. And I'm just kind of like, okay, when did she do this? When did she do this? Because
I'm wondering too now, like, are there locks to everybody's room? Does everyone have a separate key? Like, can you just get in and out easily?
She probably would have been able to get the key from her grandmother.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
So,
because if anyone has access to all the rooms, it's her.
Yeah, she would, yeah.
I've thought about this too much.
Yeah, the timing is weird. You're right, yeah.
Anyway.
So, I thought of this earlier when we were trying to do the math of how old is Lyra. And I can't remember which story it is, but there is an author's note. I think it's Fugitive Green, where who admits to, like, I have no idea how old Minion House kids are. And I don't think it adds up.
Oh,
but
God.
You know what? Here you go.
She totally screws up the timeline with the oldest one.
Does.
And I have not even bothered to try to pull on that thread and figure out what the hell happened.
Don't.
Because it's just too much.
But that was, for me, that was such an eye-opening thing, like, because I will stress, like, to no one's surprise, I will create spreadsheets and timelines, and, like,
Yes.
I draw diagrams of my stories sometimes, and I'm, like, trying to do the math, and then I read this author's note, and I go, well, let me just ball up everything I just stressed about, because, like, fuck that, who cares? Nobody cares.
Yes. No, seriously though, like I'll be doing all this math and figuring out the ages of like every character, when they were born, like, and characters that it really doesn't freaking matter. And then, yeah. And then she's just like, nah, I forgot.
It's all time travel. Time travel. Oh boy. So I think we did it. It took a long time.
Yes.
2.5 hours.
It's going to be interesting for you to edit this one.
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
Teeny tiny. Teeny tiny.
I'm terrified. So Ness, as our guest host this week, you got to choose the fic recommendation.
This is a hard one this week, but one of the most fun. Even though we were talking about how problematic and stuff the scene was for a bunch of other reasons, I think loved by the fans of Outlander kind of generally is Jamie's oath to Claire in that scene. For us, Queerlander people, we shout from the rooftops basically about how the real person who deserves that oath for taking so much of Jamie's abuse is Lord John.
100%.
And so there are fics with it. We need more fics with it. All the fics with the oath that John deserves every day. And so one of the ones that includes that is and includes a big fight, which is so much of this episode as well. A fight that they got to get through and they have to resolve in some way is by a good friend of ours is Nara Stories. So it's Nara _ Stories on AO3, and it's called Of Keys and Unusual Bonds. It's a quick little one shot, which starts off with a fun little pair up of Hal and Claire locking Jamie and John in a room because they're pissed off at each other. So that's fun. And it's just very funny and sweet. And Jamie says some bad shit and John calls him on his shit, which is always great. So, and then it has a sweet ending. So that is the fic reek of the week.
That is a great recommendation. I love Nara's stories. Her writing is
incredible,
so fun. I love. She's kind of the rare pair queen.
Yes.
So much so that she has made rare pairs not so rare, single-handedly, pretty much. So this is a good one. It's fun.
Yeah, you'll find a lot of her Outlander stuff is Tom Bird and John, which we also highly recommend because it's underrated.
Man, we haven't even remotely pulled the thread on Tom Bird yet.
I know.
That'd be fun.
God, what are we gonna get to? Like, I'm gonna have to I can probably find a way to interject him randomly.
I mean, costume talk, really.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably like adjacent to a Scottish prisoner rant. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we don't have time for it tonight.
No, we do not. Dear God, I'm done.
And on that note,
this has been a fantastic conversation. Ness, thank you so much for joining us again. This was great.
I can hear the disdain in your voice for making
none whatsoever. No, I'm tired. I'm just tired. No,
I'm kidding. You're
gonna have to figure out a way to speed this up so that we don't sound so low energy or something.
I hear you. I'll work on it for next time.
No, not you. I mean Pan when she
when I edit.
Double speed. That's what you gotta do. You gotta do double speed, then it'll be one episode.
Yeah, everybody listen to this episode on at least double speed.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, solutions everywhere. No, this was so much fun. Thanks for having me again. And if you never ask me again, I know why.
No, we will. This is too much fun.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We will talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye. This podcast is not affiliated with Outlander, Sony, Stars, and definitely 100% not with Diana Gabaldon. All opinions expressed are our own, and we may not even believe them ourselves. In fact, nothing in this podcast should be taken seriously as a general rule. We may not even be real people. Does this podcast even exist?
This podcast is not suitable for children, immature adults, homophobes, anyone who takes fandom too seriously, people who don't understand that the characters aren't real, people with sticks up their ass, people who hate fun, and people who have no sense of humor. Do not try any of these hot takes at home. We are professionals.
The FDA has not approved this podcast for human consumption. Side effects may include nausea, vomiting, the urge to send us anonymous homophobic hate, ringing in your ears, and constipation. If you experience any of these side effects, ask your doctor if dying mad about it is right for you.
If you know us in real life, no, you don't.